Welcome to Horticulture Plant Science. So horticulture is the art or practice of garden cultivation and management. This includes food and ornamental plant material. Horticulture comes from Latin for hortus, means garden, colere means to cultivate. Botany is the study of plants, including their structure, properties, plant taxonomy, and biochemical practices. And you could also look at this class as a basic botany class because we're going to be getting into quite a bit of this. Taxonomy is the branch of science dealing with description, identification, nomenclature, and classification of organisms. And this started out mostly as external appearance or morphology, internal structure, anatomy, ecology, cell structure and components, chemical components, and finally DNA. Many things were named according to the way their flowers looked, flower and fruit, but more and more they're finding similarities within DNA, and that is changing some of the families and genera of plants. So classification includes developing and using a system for categorizing things such as plants, etc. And you can see there's plants are broken into two different categories: no vascular systems such as mosses, and vascular plants that have vascular systems. And then you go down to seedless plants, which would be spores, or seeded plants. And then that gets broken down even further to gymnosperms and angiosperms. I'll talk about that in a minute. So classification includes a hierarchy of relationships. Each level is a rank. The members of each category are called taxa or taxon. The family is the rank. The Rosaceae is taxon. So plants were first classified by Theophrastus back in 370 BC. He was considered the father of botany. He was the first person to publish a classification of plants, and he classified plants based on form, so herbs, shrubs, trees, versus annuals, perennials, and biennials. Linnaeus, however, was the one who developed the system that we're familiar with now, and that breaks it down from kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. So nomenclature is governed by the International Code of Nomenclature, and a Latin binomial consists of a genus and a specific epithet. Here we have Acer palmatum, that is a Japanese maple. And Latin names are going to be italicized or underlined. Genus is a noun and it's capitalized, and it would be either italicized or underlined. And then specific epithets are nouns or adjectives in lowercase. So palmatum is the specific epithet. And you can see that's lowercase, also italicized. And quite often you'll see these binomials followed by the author citation. And in this case, Acer palmatum was cited by Linnaeus. And for specific names, follow species rules. And for specific names, this name is the scientific name of any taxon below the rank of species. So we've got subspecies, and this is where there's major variations of species that have been observed in different geographic locations. Variety is a variant that is lesser magnitude than a subspecies, and then forma, that's a trivial variation occurring among individuals of any population. So here we have a subspecies, and this, for those of you taking plant ID this quarter, this is going to be on your list. This is Helleborus lividus subspecies corsicus. And you can see subspecies is not underlined or italicized, but the genus, specific epithet, and the actual subspecies name are italicized. So it's a formal naming system, two parts: first genus, second specific epithet. Genus plus the specific epithet is the species. Sometimes you'll hear people call that second word species. That's incorrect. It's a specific epithet, so it's the combination that makes it the species. And the names are Latin or Latinized. So here's the plant classification I mentioned earlier, but really the one area that we really are concerned with as horticulturists are the family, genus, and species. In the plant kingdom, there are about over 250,000 species, and these are plants that have been identified. There are probably others out there that haven't, and they are broken down into smaller and smaller divisions based on several characteristics, such as how they produce by spores or different kinds of seeds, their size or stature. Phylum are the plants that are divided in this category based on whether or not they bear or produce seeds, vascular or non-vascular plants. Class include being divided in two types of classes, and this is something we do need to pay attention to. Angiosperms, these are plants that produce flowers, and gymnosperms that don't produce flowers. In Plant ID, those of you taking Plant ID this quarter, we're going to be studying only angiosperms this quarter, and in winter quarter we look at gymnosperms. Subclass are dicotyledons or monocotyledons, and dicotyledons are plants with two seed leaves. Monocotyledons have one seed leaf, and there's a lot of other different characteristics. We'll delve more deeply into this down the road. Order is a group of related plant families. These are thought to have developed their differences from a common ancestor. These would be vegetative structures or reproductive structures, and names of orders end in ALES. And then family. Family consists of numerous genera, although some consist of only one. Genera often resemble one another in certain broad characteristics, usually having to do with flowers, now often determined by DNA sequencing. The family usually ends in ACEAE, so Rosaceae is the rose family. So here are some examples of rose family plants. They're usually grouped by similar flowers. Rose family plants have 5 or multiples of 5 petals and many stamen. When you can't count the number of stamen, they are classified as many. The next level of plants, they share similar characteristics, and that would be genus. And these are Prunus. So genus for laurels, plums, cherries, etc. is Prunus. This is always capitalized and italicized or underlined. And you can see here's plum versus cherry. So species consists of a genus and the specific epithet, as I mentioned earlier. And the specific epithet is a noun or adjective that follows the genus. Often this describes the plant, but not always. But here we have Acer macrophyllum, and macro means large, phyllum means leaf, so big leaf maple. And species, specific epithet is going to be lowercase, italicized, or underlined. So here we have the taxonomic hierarchy. We've got Plantae. Phylum is an angiosperm, order Magnoliaceae, family Magnoliaceae, genus Magnolia, species Magnolia grandiflora, and then common name is southern magnolia. And we will have this on our plant list if you're taking ID this quarter. Subspecies. This is a particular group within a species that is branched off, usually due to geographic isolation, and this would be abbreviated SSP or SUBSP. The name that follows that will be lowercase, italicized, or underlined. So here we have Acer tetrachome subspecies Genella. This is a maple. Variety is a population of plants that display marked differences in nature. Differences are transmitted by seed. They're more or less recognizable within species, not genetically isolated from each other. So that would be abbreviated VAR, and then written in lowercase, italicized or underlined. And here we have Viburnum plicatum variety tomentosum. And then we have form. These are sporadic variations. Sometimes a white-flowered plant will appear on a normally purple-flowered species. This is also italicized or underlined after the abbreviation F. And here's red-flowering dogwood. Cornus florida would be white-flowered. This is Forma rubra, and that is the red-flowering dogwood, or pink-flowering dogwood, excuse me. Cultivars are selected for particular attributes or a combination of attributes. They're clearly distinct, uniform, and stable. They retain characteristics when they're propagated, but this is going to be asexually. And the cultivar names are capitalized in single quotes. So here we have Ulmus glabra camperdownii, Camperdown elm. Clones are a group of plants that are identical to their one parent, can only be propagated asexually. We have Pyrus communis Bartlett, Malus domestica red delicious. These are by cuttings, layering, division, budding, and grafting. So then we have hybrids. There's interspecific hybrids that occur between two different species that cross, and you would have a lowercase x before the specific epithet. In this case, we have Osmanthus x Burkwoodii, and this is a plant on the broadleaf evergreen list this fall. So that's a cross between Osmanthus delavii and Osmanthus decorus. And then really rare situation are intergeneric hybrids, and this is occurring when you've got two plants from different genera that are crossed. In this case, you would have an uppercase X in front of the genus, and this is X Phaceteria lizii. This is a cross between Fatsia japonica and Heterohelix, and some of you may know that Heterohelix is English ivy. And then there are plants that are trademarked, and they're legalized brand labels. They're owned by corporate entities. Has nothing to do with plant classification and nomenclature, and there's no scientific standard that goes along with trademark names. So dichotomous keys are used to identify plants. You answer a series of questions about the characteristics of the plants you're trying to identify, and it's a process of elimination. You match characteristics that best describe the plant you're identifying. So here's an example of a dichotomous key, and I've got this the video that goes along with this slide on Canvas. So you've got needle-like leaves, non-needle leaves. So say you've got needle leaves, you bypass 1B and you go to 2, and then you would see if they're clustered or singlets, and etc., etc. You just process of elimination. So run through that video and check that out. Okay, gymnosperms are non-flowering. Their seeds are exposed in open structures such as cones and leaves. Gymno means naked, sperm needs seed. These contain true roots, stems, and leaves, and examples are conifers, cycads, and ginkgo. Flowering plants are the angiosperms. These are flowers that are grouped together. They're a group of modified leaves used for sexual reproduction. Seeds are found inside fruit, and these contain true roots, stems, and leaves. The plants do. And examples of this are rose, lily, oak, maple, pea, grass. That goes on and on. So here's examples of gymnosperms. On the left we've got pine cones. On the right, these are cones from cycads. And Ginkgo biloba is a really old tree, and it may look like it's an angiosperm, but the seed is inside of this fleshy coat. It's just a fleshy coat. And then here's an example of angiosperms. Of course, the tomato flower and the tomato fruit.